What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Swingman Podcast channel. It's Sorare Game Week 37. I'm going to run you through all the rewards that we won in the last game week and show you my lineups for the coming game week in Game Week 37. Before we jump into that, let's go. Right then, before we take a look at the prior game week and the rewards that I won in there, can I ask, can you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and comment your Sorare handle down below to get involved in the giveaway? Because they have got rid of common champion, so there is no more cards to be won from there on the limited side. But if we do win in the limited veterans special game mode that they've got this week, and I got a pretty good lineup for it, I'll be giving that card away. So drop your Sorare handle in the comments down below. So for game week 36, as you can see, that's just gone, we did actually get 3 rewards across the game week. We did pretty well in rare under 23. We did slip out a little bit from last night's game, so a few guys popping off, but a top 100 finish. We got 83rd, which means we'll get a tier 4 rare card. There are some decent tier 4s in the pool. I won't bore you with that, of who's in there, but the rewards for all of these will either be at the end of the video or they'll be on my own personal Twitter account, which is at George_St. It's also in the little thing here. I've got my camera mirrored, so it's probably not pointing to it correctly. But you can follow me on there. My rewards are always posted on there anyway. But in regards to that, yeah, a tier 4 in there. We had a really good limited champion squad this week. I thought it would do well. I said it in the video last week, and it did well. We got 82nd. We was like 8th, I want to say, or like 18th at one stage. Paul George, De'Aaron Fox, Joel Embiid putting in some serious scores, especially Paul George and De'Aaron Fox in that massive Kings Clippers game. Cam Reddish way outperformed his L10 like he was going to, and so did Matisse Thybulle. Good enough for a top 100 finish. That gets us a tier 3 rare instead of a tier 2. But again, add to the collection. They'll become useful across the next couple of 20 games that are left for the season and beyond, and hopefully we get someone that's in the playoffs. At Rare Champion, we just slipped outside, and then Limited Contender, we also picked up a tier 4 limited card, mainly thanks to Franz Wagner and Jared Vanderbilt performing ridiculously well in that Lakers game against the Mavs yesterday. In any case, let's jump into my lineups for this week. So it's the same basic set of, well, I say basic, it's the same set of competitions that you had from last week. There's no extra prizes or so on and so forth for winning in these ones, but we've got limited veterans, we've got rare under 23 and the same ones. The only difference now is obviously there is no common champion for where you could play all your common cards and win a limited card potentially. There's now, I don't think I can even see it. I think it's locked for me. It was here before, but it isn't there. There is now a mode where if you have less than 5 limiteds or you've never played in them, you can now play it or something. Obviously, it's not really apparent to me. I'll still be putting in a team for common veterans and pick up just to accrue the common cards. But at the moment is the one issue is that on the free-to-play side of things, there isn't really anything for people to play for now is the only concern of it. Normally there is a bridge for it, but I think this will all get addressed and it will all work itself out in the future. I think they're just trying to find and plot their course on the NBA side of things. In any case, the game mode of which I'll be giving away a card if we do win is the limited veterans one. There is a prize pool of 225 here. They start at tier 4s as well, so tier 4 cards are pretty decent. They're not like tier 5s where you might get 1 week where they're usable cards on the NBA side of things. You can get some fairly decent tier 4s, but you need a top 225 finish, and at the moment there's 1500 with 7 hours left as I'm recording this, probably finishing in around the 2,500 mark. In any case, my team for the limited veterans, I've got Kyrie Irving and Paul George. Look, I'm not going to go out and spend massive amounts on optimizing and finding the perfect lineup for the limited veterans. I wouldn't advise you do that either, primarily because the prize pool is so condensed. But in my gallery, I had a Paul George and a Kyrie Irving. I had a Chris Boucher who, as we all know, can put up decent scores. Depends really on the Raptors rotation for that night. Doug McDermott, the same thing in that second unit for the Spurs, really. And then I went and picked up a trade for a CJ McCollum where I gave a small amount of ETH and a Mo Bamba Lakers card over it. Not that it makes a difference if it's his Lakers card or it's his Magic card. It was just in the Lakers uniform. And I picked up a CJ McCollum just because he fit in the cap space that I had left. He's too overpriced to play in the limited contender or champion modes, primarily because 37 is quite high for him. But, you know, who knows? In these modes, if he does have a really big night, along with Kyrie and Paul George, I might snag myself a tier 4 or a tier 3, which I'll be giving away. Then for limited champion, as I was going through things, Joel Embiid's got 3 games this week. He's always my MVP in limited champion, pretty much regardless of anything. It would be a very rare circumstance I wouldn't pick a Joel Embiid for this. And then to fit out the rest of the lineup here, I was going through this. Cam Reddish and Matisse Thybulle are still in that really perfect spot where their L10s are so low, despite being starting guys now for the Blazers, that they're going to be really great assets to have. So he'll outperform his L10, providing no injuries or anything like that. Franz Wagner, 22, same thing, too low for him for what he's doing at the moment for the Magic in terms of a scoring unit. In and around the 30 mark, I would suspect, for Franz Wagner. And then when I was looking at this here, I don't want to play Vucevic. I don't want to play Fox on the one game against the Thunder. Very strong chance he'll outperform them, but I really like Vucevic against the Pistons. 45 is high for him, but he does have these ceiling games where he can go off, especially against teams that don't like defending bigs, as in the Warriors and also the Pistons. I don't care that they've got Jalen Duren and James Wiseman. I would expect Vucevic to almost get a triple-double, if not a triple-double, in this game. So I'm going to take the gamble on him. And then lastly is Bradley Beal. 37 is still too high for him, but he just fit the team too well for it. He can get 37. He might get in the 40s and 50s, but this isn't as strong as it was last week. I'm not expecting it to do as well as it did, as in we finish in the top 100 and we come 82nd, but this can definitely still pick a reward up for me in Limit Champion. There's also the off chance it doesn't, but we'll roll with this and we see where we go. And then for Limited Contender, so when I was looking through some of my sort of cheaper guys, now that there isn't the Limited Underdog mode, I can play the likes of a Luke Kennard this week, who's got that Lakers game, and more importantly, that Rockets game. And, you know, in a really strong showing against Denver. And for an L10 of 9, I'm just going to take the risk on in Limited Contender because he allows me to play a Ja Morant type. And again, the same sort of thing, because he's got that Rockets game. I'm just a big fan on Ja Morant. His L10 is too high at 52. I've had him for ages now. I can play him in a Limited Contender mode because I've got a Luke Kennard and also a Bol Bol. The issue with sort of Bol Bol is he's, like I said before and last week, his minutes are just not sort of being consistent. And even when he's getting a decent chunk of minutes, I'm talking like 15 to 20 a night, he's not making and picking up sort of contributions on the court. He looks great and everything like that. It's just not translating at the moment into Sorare points. I'm not too worried or concerned about him. I've got him in my gallery for a long time. I've also got a rare card of his. It's one of those things. I'll play him in the L10 of 11 against the Pels and the Bucks, and we'll see. Who knows? Matisse Thybulle 15 for the Blazers. Too low. Again, it's the same story with Cam Reddish. These guys are coming off of being, well, Cam Reddish wasn't even playing at the moment, but they're coming off of being unit players, and as such, their L10s are sort of still low down from where they weren't in the rotations much, whereas Matisse Thybulle and Cam Reddish are now starters near on effectively. So L10 of 15, perfect for a Limited Contender mode. And then Trey Jones is the one that I've got in at the moment. I might switch this out to a Jared Vanderbilt or even a Drew Eubanks, primarily because he might be injured still. But at 23, he would be the guy I'd pick out of Terrence Mann, Jared Vanderbilt, and Drew Eubanks. So it's the same as last week, really quickly, on Rare Under 23 pretty much. I'm going to go with the same lineup because it did quite well and they all fit in the cap space again. So Anthony Edwards have only got one game against the Clippers, but he'll be my MVP in this. And also this means that obviously these cards are being taken away from my rare champion lineup, is which I potentially would have an Anthony Edwards or a Jaren Jackson Jr. in them. But when these competitions are about, and I've got a really strong, in my opinion, apart from Luka Doncic, I've got a really strong lineup here for Rare Under 23. These are all guys that can I believe, could exceed their L10s. Maybe not Anthony Edwards on 42, but I can definitely see Jaren Jackson Jr. scoring more than 40 in both of these games alone. And then Wendell Carter Jr., Jeremy Sohan, and RJ Barrett are all in the 26 and 27 mark, and they've all got 2 games to do it. RJ Barrett's been a bit hit and miss recently, but even then, 26 is too low for him to not outperform it. In that, he got 38 against the Pelicans and he played terribly. So there is always scope for him to go in that high 30s, low 40s mark. And it's the same thing with these 2 guys here, Sohan and Carter Jr. I'm a big fan of them in the under 23 mark. So I mean, and we're looking through the under 23 guys here now as like other players. Jaden Ivey being ruled out. Killian Hayes is going to be a really big option this week, especially for that first game against the Hornets. He should see high usage come through. Jordan Poole's always a good one. Mark Williams at the Hornets is always a good one. Jonathan Kuminga at the Warriors is always a good one, especially with Andrew Wiggins being out at the moment on personal reasons. And then James Wiseman, even at the Pistons. The reason why I would be cautious if you've got them in your gallery, play them in the Rare Under 23. I'd be cautious on the fact that I wouldn't necessarily myself be looking right now to go out there and buy them, only because I'm conscious of the playoffs approaching and I want to have max utility within that time frame. If you're going to buy them and you're not worried about holding on to them until the next season, it's great. But that's where you should just probably start to think about things, because after All-Star break, that's what everyone does. They think about the playoffs. So just bear in mind when picking up these sort of guys, you're only got that small time frame now to have the utility of them, and then you've got to wait and hold. I wouldn't buy them and then sell them. That would be a personal mistake, in my opinion. None of this is financial advice, obviously, but that's just how I would read things. Me personally, I am going to look at it from the other side of the coin, essentially. When the playoffs do hit and people are going to start selling these cards off from the Rockets, from the Pistons, from all of these sort of teams that aren't in the playoffs or play-ins, like a Sengun, I'm going to definitely try and pick up a Sengun from the Rockets because their demand is going to be so low and people are going to want to move out of these cards to try and get cards that are playing. And for me, I think if you see that yourself playing so rare in the long run, you see yourself playing it next year, despite the fact they'll lose their seasonal bonus, I'd rather take them on now at the lower price, wait it, hold it out, and then use them again in the new year. That's how I see things. If you see it differently, obviously feel free. Let me know in the comments how you see these sort of things. But that's how I'm going to pretty much approach my sort of buying style towards the new year and the run of the playoffs. In any case, that's my rare under 23 team. I'll show you my rare contender team as well. I know what you're thinking. You've just seen Kevin Knox, and I completely agree with you. Kevin Knox should not be in anyone's teams. However, like I've mentioned, I don't want to go out and buy these low L10 guys that are playing for teams that aren't in the playoffs now. And for rare contender this week, I like the other four guys. Granted, there is a very, very likely chance that Andrew Wiggins is still not back. At the deadline, if I don't hear he's back, I'll probably swap Caleb Martin out. And I'll probably swap Markelle Fultz out for a Kendrick Nunn. Or if I do this, actually, if I put Kendrick Nunn in, I could put Aaron Gordon in. Oh, actually, wait, hang on. No, I want to get rid of Knox. What can I do here? Trendon Watford, and Aaron Gordon. He's got the 2 games, Trendon Watford. I know that if Jeremy Grant's back, it's going to directly affect Trendon Watford's position. And it's not great, but it's better than playing Kevin Knox here, along with a Markelle Fultz. So I might actually go for this. Do you know what? This is a live change. Trendon Watford, Andrew Nembhard. Nembhard at 16. At the minute, he's been like Bol, where Nembhard was really, really high after that Warriors game earlier in the season. And then he slowly trickled down. He got injured. Then he lost his spot in the starting lineup. Then he's back in the starting lineup. He's never a big scorer. If he doesn't score points in the first half of a game, it's pretty much wash for him because he's never going to get shots in the second. He's never going to get shots in the fourth quarter. He's always a guy for assists, steals, and blocks, and that's Nembhard. You might get lucky on a 30 and a 40, but regularly at the moment he's been putting up sort of 15s and 20s, apart from the 34 we got last week. He's a great asset to have in that regard, but again, you got to think playoff picture. This is why I'm not selling my Aaron Gordon when I won him a couple of weeks back. I think Denver will go semi-far in the playoffs, so I'd like to have him around. Jeremy Grant, 28. If he plays, he's great. If he doesn't, it's just what it is. I'll swap him out for a Caleb Martin. And then Kendrick Nunn is sort of a reward that I won that had a medium-ish L10 that I thought could come in handy for contender modes like this. It's fine. I could play Kelly Oubre Jr. and I've held on to him for ages after he had his hand surgery. And I'm talking 6 weeks. I bought him 3-4 months ago. He's a great asset when he's fully fit and he won't get back into the Hornets starting 5, but he'll be their 6th man and he'll get 25 to 30 minutes a night with a high usage rate. So when he comes back down, he'll be great. It's quite annoying because he's got a nice fixture in the Detroit game, but this lineup looks a bit better than playing Kevin Knox and Markelle Fultz. Having Trendon Watford and Aaron Gordon will be a bit better. And then as a result of everything, my red champion team, Paul George will be my MVP. I don't think he's going to be playing on a minutes restriction as he was in the Kings game, despite the fact he got like 64, 65. The Minnesota game is really, really nice for Paul George if he's not on a minutes restriction, because also Kawhi Leonard played 45 minutes the other night and then played another full game against Denver. He's going to sit out one game. Sometimes they sit him out together, but if he sits out one of these games, Paul George would be a great asset. Mikal Bridges at 39 is still too high, but I like him for this lineup. Jaylen Brown at 38, I would argue is too low. Bol at 11 is Bol, like I've mentioned on the limited side. And Gary Trent Jr. at 32. I could swap him out for Kelly Oubre, and that's something I might decide at the deadline. If you had to ask me, the Raptors are going to be playing actual basketball to win against the Bulls and the Wizards, whereas, I mean, the Detroit Hornets game is going to be who can lose more, and I don't really want to be a part of that one. So on that basis, I'll probably run Gary Trent Jr. at the time being. And I think that's it. If we've covered everything. Like I mentioned, there isn't the common champion or the common contender lineups anymore. They've changed them. Am I the biggest fan? Not necessarily. I do think it takes away too much from... I understand why Sorare have done it. They want to get people moving from the free-to-play version into sort of slowly acquiring cards. I think they could have gone on it at a different angle. of keeping common champion and then maybe tweaking some of the competitions here. I think limit if they're worried about sort of where the market's heading and things like that, this is a natural evolution, and this is for people as well. If you're worried in regards to why the market is going down, from my point of view, a market should go down because it's the only time then you'll see it go back up. There has to have these things in a market for it to work. I've just bumped my mic as I've done that, but these sort of things will always happen. I would be worried if my Hornets and Rockets and Pistons cards weren't going down when the playoffs were coming. So don't fret too much about it. Obviously, no one likes to see it, but it's what happens. You want to see when your cards are in more demand, they go up, and when they're not, they go down. It's a natural market evolution. So don't be too stressed. Don't be too worried about it. I'll be in the comments down below if you want to have a chat about anything Sorare, or on my Twitter, like I've said, @JawStLedger. That's going to wrap that video up there. I'll leave a link in the description down below as well, because I'm just doing a random Sorare giveaway for a Pat Connaughton on my regular Twitter, or on my personal Twitter. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. Catch us in the next, I'll do another Sorare video for Game Week 38 as I always do. I'm also going to do a few more sort of off the cuff Sorare videos coming along, so make sure you hit a subscribe button to not miss them. Our latest podcast dropped last week. We'll have another one coming in the next few weeks as well, in the next few days I should say as well. And yeah, thank you very much for watching, and peace.